Have you ever looked around your life and wondered, why does it feel so empty? Why is it that when you needed people the most, they disappeared? You gave love, but were met with silence. You shared dreams, and they laughed. You stood for truth, and they called you proud. Listen carefully. This is not a curse. This is the mark of the chosen. Yes, the chosen ones often have 0 friends. Not because they are unlovable, but because they are uncommon. You are not ordinary, and when you carry something divine, ordinary company cannot stay. Body building the message. One isolation is a sign of selection. Before every great mission comes separation. Joseph was thrown into a pit before he sat in a palace. Moses was alone in the desert before he faced Pharaoh. Even the greatest teachers walked away from crowds to speak to heaven. Your isolation is not rejection, it's redirection. When heaven chooses you, it hides you. When destiny marks you, it separates you because you cannot rise while surrounded by noise. 2, the burden of vision. Chosen ones see what others can't see. You talk about a future that others don't believe exists. Your faith confuses them, your fire convicts them. And when people cannot understand your calling, they distance themselves. Don't cry over who left. They left because they couldn't handle your vision. They saw your passion as pride, your discipline as distance, your calling as competition. 3, spiritual resistance and misunderstanding. When you carry light, darkness notices. When you carry purpose, pressure finds you. People won't always hate you. Sometimes they just don't know what to do with you. But remember this. Every chosen one must face misunderstanding before manifestation, because without resistance, your faith would never grow wings. 4, separation before elevation. Every eagle must leave the nest before it learns to fly. Every seed must be buried before it grows. You cannot walk with the crowd and carry the crown. Solitude is the classroom of the chosen. It is there, in silence, that God whispers secrets he cannot tell the crowd. When you stop trying to fit in, you finally fit into purpose. 5, from isolation to impact. One day, the same people who called you strange will call you wise. The same crowd that mocked your silence will need your voice, because chosen ones are not meant to have friends. They are meant to have followers, nations, generations that rise because of their obedience. So, if you feel alone, don't despair. You are not being punished. You are being prepared. Heaven trusts you with solitude because you are too valuable to be distracted. Closing, the call to reflection. So today, if you are listening and you feel forgotten, remember this truth. The chosen are never truly alone. They walk with destiny. And when your season of isolation ends, your influence will begin. Stay faithful in the silence, because your story isn't over. The world may not see you now, but heaven already knows your name, and soon the reason for your loneliness will become the evidence of your greatness. There comes a time in every chosen person's life when the noise of the world begins to fade and the silence becomes deafening. You look around and realize the people who once walked with you are no longer there. The laughter that once filled your circle has turned into echoes of memory. You begin to ask yourself, why does it feel like everyone is leaving me? What did I do wrong? But the truth is, you didn't do anything wrong. You did something right. You followed the path that destiny carved for you. And destiny always begins with separation. You see, isolation is not a punishment. It is a process, a sacred invitation from heaven to come closer, to go deeper, to prepare for what's ahead. When you are chosen, you cannot walk with the crowd because the crowd cannot carry what you carry. They cannot see what you see. They do not understand the weight of your calling. You are not designed to blend in. You are designed to stand out. And before God shows the world who you are, he will first hide you. Look at every great story of transformation. Before Joseph wore the robe of royalty, he wore the chains of rejection. His own brothers could not understand the dreams burning inside him, so they cast him away. Before Moses led a nation to freedom, he spent 40 years alone in the wilderness learning the voice of God. Even David, the shepherd boy turned king, was left forgotten in the field while others were chosen before him. Yet it was in that field, in that place of isolation, that his anointing grew. Every chosen one goes through a hidden season. Every chosen one must walk the road of solitude before they can stand on the stage of destiny. Why? Because isolation refines what comfort can't. In comfort, you grow complacent. In company, you grow dependent. But in isolation, you grow strong. When no one claps for you, you learn to clap for yourself. When no one believes in you, you learn to walk by faith, not by validation. In solitude, the noise dies down and the voice of purpose grows louder. It's there that you discover that your strength doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment. Many people mistake loneliness for abandonment. But chosen ones eventually learn that loneliness is the language of preparation. When heaven is about to birth something great through you, it must separate you from distractions. It's not that you're better than others. It's that your assignment is different. You cannot build something divine while surrounded by constant noise. So God clears your environment. Not to break you, but to build you. Think about a seed. Before it can grow into a tree, it must first be buried. Completely hidden under the soil, surrounded by darkness, cut off from sight. But that darkness is not death, it is development. The seed is isolated so it can germinate, take root, and grow in strength. In the same way, when you are chosen, God buries you in seasons where no one sees your potential, no one praises your progress, and no one understands your pain. Yet it's in that very silence that your roots grow deep. You must understand, visibility is not always victory. Sometimes being unseen is the greatest blessing you could ever receive. Because in that hidden place, you're being shaped, tested, and trusted. Heaven watches to see how you handle being forgotten, because how you handle obscurity determines if you can handle glory. If you can stay faithful when no one is watching, then you can be trusted when everyone is watching. So when you find yourself walking alone, don't despise it. Embrace it. Because isolation is not rejection. It is selection. It means heaven looked at you and said, you are ready for more. It means your spirit has outgrown your surroundings. It means you are being prepared to carry something greater than friendship, greater than popularity, greater than acceptance. You are being prepared to carry purpose. Many cannot understand this process because they crave companionship more than calling. They seek comfort more than character. But the chosen understand that destiny requires distance. You cannot hear divine direction. When you are surrounded by too many voices, God will often pull you away so He can speak to you directly. And when He does, it will make sense why certain people walked away, why certain doors closed, and why certain seasons ended. What if the people who left weren't meant to stay? What if their departure was divine protection? Sometimes God removes who you want to keep so He can make room for who you need. He will empty your circle to fill your spirit. He will remove distractions so your destiny can have space to breathe. So to the one listening who feels abandoned, understand this truth. You are not alone, you are set apart. The silence you hear is not absence, it's alignment. Heaven is rearranging your surroundings to match your calling. You are in the process of becoming who you were always meant to be. The loneliness you feel today will one day become the story you tell when you stand in your purpose. So hold on, don't rush out of your isolation, don't run back to what feels familiar. Stay where God placed you. Let solitude finish its sacred work. Because isolation is not the end, it's the beginning of transformation. You are not forgotten, you are being formed. You are not hidden to be lost, you are hidden to be revealed. And when the time comes when heaven says now, the same people who couldn't see you in your silence will witness your elevation. They will wonder how you grew so strong, how you stayed so calm, how you rose so high, and you will simply smile and say, I was chosen. And my isolation was my preparation. There is a weight that comes with being chosen, a heaviness that sits not on the shoulders but in the soul. It is the weight of vision. The chosen ones see things that others cannot see. They sense what others ignore. They are awake while the world sleeps. And because of that awareness, they carry a silent burden, the burden of knowing too much, feeling too deeply, and dreaming too wildly for the comfort of those around them. Vision is both a gift and a test. It opens your eyes to possibilities, but it also opens your heart to pain. You see what can be, while others only see what is, and that difference is often enough to make you feel like a stranger even among friends. The truth is, vision isolates before it elevates. When you start speaking about the future that no one else can picture, people begin to step back. They call you unrealistic, too ambitious, or even arrogant. They cannot see what you see, so they judge what they cannot understand. They mistake your confidence for pride, your clarity for stubbornness, your passion for rebellion. But what they fail to realize is that your vision did not come from human desire. It was breathed into you by divine purpose. And those who are not meant to carry it will never comprehend it. Every chosen person carries a fire inside them that refuses to go out. It burns through their thoughts, keeps them awake at night, and drives them forward even when the road is rough. That fire is the vision. A picture of something greater, something eternal. It's not a hobby, not a dream, not a random idea. It's a divine assignment. And the higher the vision, the heavier the burden, because it requires discipline when others are distracted. It demands silence when others are social. It calls for sacrifice when others seek comfort. The chosen cannot live like everyone else because their destiny is not like everyone else's. You will notice that when you start walking in vision, people who once understood you will begin to misunderstand you. They will think you have changed, but you haven't changed. Your perspective has. You now speak the language of the future, and those who dwell in the present cannot translate it. When you speak about what will be, they only hear what isn't yet. That is why visionaries often walk alone. It's not that they reject people, it's that they are walking in a direction others have not yet seen. It's a lonely journey to carry something that hasn't been born yet. You carry ideas, revelations, and dreams that have not yet manifested. You walk around with invisible treasures, knowing what is coming, but having no one to share it with. It's a strange pain to be full of what hasn't yet happened, but that's what it means to be chosen. You become the bridge between what is and what will be. You live between two worlds, the promise and the manifestation, and that in-between space can feel like an endless wilderness. Sometimes you will question your sanity. You will ask yourself, am I imagining all this? Did I really hear God right? Why do I see what others don't? But that's the nature of vision. It doesn't make sense until it happens, and that's why it's given to one, not to many. God cannot trust everyone with sight into the future, because not everyone can bear the weight of unseen reality. The chosen are entrusted with vision because they have the capacity to walk by faith, not by sight. Vision will test your patience. It will stretch your faith. It will make you wait while everyone else seems to move ahead. Because when you carry vision, you cannot rush timing. You are building something eternal. And eternity does not bow to human schedules. You will spend years preparing for what will appear overnight to others. But don't be discouraged. The waiting is part of the work. The delay is not denial, it is design. Heaven hides what it is perfecting. The burden of vision will also test your relationships. Some people will walk away because they can't understand why you are so focused, so selective, so withdrawn. They don't realize that vision requires isolation. You cannot plant divine seeds in soil that does not honor them. You must protect what's inside you from environments that can contaminate it. Sometimes that means saying no to invitations, conversations, and distractions that everyone else enjoys, not because you think you're better, but because you're building something bigger. And when people leave, when you lose what you thought you needed, it will hurt. But even that pain has purpose. The burden of vision strips you of dependency. It forces you to trust God completely, to rely on His timing and not man's approval, because vision will make you do things that don't make sense. You'll be building an ark while the sky is clear. You'll be preparing for rain while everyone else is laughing. But when the flood comes, when the storm hits, those same people will look to you for direction. The chosen ones understand that vision is not about status, it's about stewardship. It's not given to make you famous, it's given to make you faithful. you are entrusted with something that belongs to eternity, something that will outlive you. And because of that, you will often walk roads that others fear to travel. You will cry tears no one will see, pray prayers no one will hear, and carry hope no one will believe in until it manifests. So, if you are carrying a vision that feels too heavy, too lonely, too misunderstood, don't drop it. Don't trade it for comfort. Don't shrink it to fit in. Remember this, great visionaries are never understood in their beginning. They are only celebrated in their fulfillment. The same people who doubt you now will one day say, we always knew, but you'll know the truth. You walked through fire alone. You carried the burden in silence. You fought battles unseen. The burden of vision is proof that you are trusted with destiny. It is a sacred weight that shapes your spirit and purifies your motives. It is the reason why chosen ones seem distant, intense, or strange. They are not lost. They are focused. They are not antisocial. They are being trained. They are not cold. They are carrying fire. So carry your vision with humility and courage. The world may not understand. You now. But one day they will stand in awe of what your obedience built, because chosen ones are not remembered for their comfort. They are remembered for their calling. And that calling always begins with the burden of vision. Every chosen life will encounter resistance. It is a law of purpose. The moment you decide to walk in the light of your calling, darkness notices. The moment you begin to move toward destiny, forces that were silent begin to stir. The chosen do not attract peace in the beginning. They attract pressure because purpose threatens everything that profits from your confusion. You were quiet when you were ordinary, but the moment you began to rise, your presence became a disturbance to the comfortable and a danger to the complacent. Resistance is not a sign that you are wrong. It is a sign that you are finally doing something right. Many people expect that when they are walking in divine will, the road should be easy. They imagine that being chosen means being protected from pain. But that is not how purpose works. Purpose is revealed through opposition. It's in the storm that you learn to command peace. It's in betrayal that you learn discernment. It's in rejection that you learn to stand firm on identity. If life is too calm, it may mean you are standing still. Movement always creates friction. Light always exposes darkness. So when you begin to step into who you really are, do not be surprised when criticism, jealousy, and misunderstanding arise from every direction. It comes with the calling. The chosen ones must learn that misunderstanding is the price of revelation. When God gives you insight that others don't have, you will be judged by those who see only half the picture. They will call your obedience rebellion. They will label your conviction as pride. They will mock what they cannot comprehend. But never forget, it was misunderstanding that placed Joseph in the pit, yet that same pit led him to the palace. It was misunderstanding that caused David's brothers to doubt him, but that doubt positioned him to face Goliath. The rejection of men does not cancel the selection of God. Every no from people is a setup for a greater yes from heaven. You will face seasons when even those closest to you cannot recognize your growth. They knew who you were, but they don't understand who you are becoming, and because they are familiar with your past, they cannot perceive your transformation. The chosen often have to leave behind environments where they are tolerated to step into places where they are celebrated. Familiarity breeds blindness. People stop seeing your grace because they are too used to your presence. So God allows tension and misunderstanding to push you out of comfort zones that were never meant to contain your purpose. Resistance also serves as a mirror. It reveals what still needs to be strengthened within you. If criticism breaks you, you are not yet ready for leadership. If rejection makes you bitter, you are not yet mature for influence. Every attack is a test, not of your weakness, but of your readiness. The storms are not meant to destroy you, they are meant to train you. Diamonds are not formed in comfort, and neither are destinies. The heat you feel is heaven refining your resilience. When you carry something divine, expect conflict. You cannot bring light into a dark world and expect applause. You are a reminder that mediocrity is not enough. Your very existence challenges others to confront what they've ignored. Some will resist you, not because you've done wrong, but because you've awakened something in them that they aren't ready to face. That is why chosen ones are often criticized for being too much, too focused, too intense, too spiritual, too different. But you must not dim your light just because it makes others squint. Your calling will always make the comfortable uncomfortable. Spiritual resistance also comes in unseen forms. There will be moments when your mind becomes a battlefield, when doubt whispers louder than faith, when fear feels heavier than hope. You will feel unseen hands trying to pull you back into old habits, old voices trying to remind you of who you used to be. But you must remember, what is attacking you is threatened by what is about to emerge from you. The greater the resistance, the greater the release. When you feel all of hell rising against you, it's usually because heaven is preparing to announce you. There will also be times when silence becomes your only companion. You will pray and hear nothing. You will believe and see nothing. You will give your best and get nothing in return. And in that silence, you will be tempted to think you've been abandoned. But silence is not absence, it's strategy. When a teacher is giving a test, they stop talking. Heaven's silence often means you are in the middle of your test, not the end of your journey. Keep walking, keep believing. Even when no one understands you, even when no one applauds you, keep doing what you were called to do. One of the hardest parts of being chosen is realizing that you will be misunderstood by the very people you hoped would support you. Family may doubt you, friends may drift away, mentors may question you, but don't let their misunderstanding become your mirror. What they see is temporary. What you carry is eternal. Sometimes God hides your full purpose from others so that only He can shape it. If everyone could see what's inside you, they might try to influence it before it matures, so He allows misunderstanding as a shield of protection to keep you from premature exposure. So when resistance comes, don't curse it. Learn from it. Every time someone misunderstands you, let it remind you that your vision is bigger than explanation. Every time you are attacked, let it teach you to fight with wisdom instead of anger. Every time you are isolated, let it push you deeper into divine dependence. You are not fighting for popularity. You are fighting for purpose. At the end of the day, the chosen ones must understand that misunderstanding is not the enemy of destiny, it is the escort to it. You will never fulfill your calling if you need constant validation. Greatness is birthed in seasons where no one claps. Faith grows in moments where no one agrees. Purpose matures when you are misunderstood, but still obedient. So when people talk, keep walking. When they mock, keep moving. When they doubt, keep believing. Let your results speak what your words cannot. One day, the same mouths that doubted you will declare your testimony. The same eyes that looked down on you will look up to you. The same hearts that rejected you will receive from you. Because resistance does not defeat the chosen, it refines them. Misunderstanding does. There comes a point in every chosen life when separation becomes unavoidable. It is the moment when everything familiar begins to fall apart. Friendships fade, routines crumble, opportunities close, and suddenly you find yourself standing between what was and what will be. It feels like loss, but it is not loss. It is transition. It is heaven rearranging your surroundings to fit your destiny. Every chosen one must go through separation before elevation, because you cannot rise while still attached to what kept you grounded. You cannot enter a new season while still holding hands with the old one. Separation is painful because it feels like rejection. You begin to wonder why certain people no longer call, why doors that once opened now remain locked, why the circle that once cheered you on has grown quiet. But separation is not God saying, I am done with you. It is God saying, I am about to do something through you. Before elevation comes isolation. Before increase comes pruning. Just as a tree must be trimmed to grow higher, your life must be cut back to make space for greater fruit. When you are chosen, you cannot afford to stay in comfort. The crowd feels safe, but the crowd can also be a cage. Familiarity breeds limitation. The chosen are called to climb, not to camp, but climbing requires letting go of the ground beneath you. You cannot take every friendship, every opinion, every attachment into the next dimension. Some people are blessings for a season, not for a lifetime. They were sent to teach you something, not to travel with you. And when their purpose in your story is fulfilled, heaven begins to remove them, not out of cruelty, but out of mercy, because if they stayed, they would slow you down. There is a kind of divine loneliness that always precedes greatness. Before David sat on the throne, he was left alone with sheep in the field. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he was separated from his brothers. Before Esther became queen, she was taken from her home into a palace where she knew no one. Before elevation, there is always separation. God isolates before he elevates, because he must prepare your character before he reveals your crown. What destroys most people is not failure, but success they were not prepared for. So God hides you, tests you, and stretches you so that when you rise, you can sustain what he gives. You may think separation means something has gone wrong, but it is often the evidence that everything is going right. You prayed for growth, but growth requires space. You asked for more, but more requires room. You cannot carry new blessings with old baggage. The people who walked with you in your last season may not have the faith to walk with you into your next one. They love the version of you that fit their comfort, not the version that fulfills your calling. And when you start growing beyond their expectations, they begin to distance themselves. Don't chase what God is trying to change. Don't hold on to what heaven is removing. The longer you cling to the familiar, the more you delay your future. Separation hurts because it exposes your attachments. It shows you where your trust really lies. Do you trust the crowd more than the call? Do you depend on people more than the promise? The chosen must learn to walk with God even when no one walks with them. They must learn that obedience sometimes requires walking alone. The mountain of purpose is narrow, and only a few can climb it with you. Many will start, few will stay, but those who remain after separation are divine connections, not just convenient companions. In seasons of separation, it feels like everything is being taken from you, but in truth, everything unnecessary is being removed. Heaven is decluttering your life so you can breathe freely again. You may lose people, but you will gain peace. You may lose comfort, but you will gain clarity. You may lose applause, but you will gain alignment. What you think is the end is only a divine edit. God removing scenes from your story that no longer serve your future. Elevation requires solitude because God cannot pour new oil into crowded spaces. He needs you still, quiet and focused. In that hidden place, you begin to hear his voice more clearly. In the absence of noise, you rediscover purpose. You learn that peace is not found in company, but in connection with the divine. You begin to understand that separation is not the absence of people. It is the presence of preparation. Something is being built inside you even when nothing seems to be happening around you. Sometimes God will separate you not just from people, but from patterns, old habits, old thoughts, old ways of seeing yourself, because before he elevates your position, he must elevate your perception. You cannot carry small thinking into big destiny. He will challenge your comfort zones, stretch your faith, and force you to depend entirely on his direction. That's why elevation feels like loss before it feels like promotion. You have to shed what no longer fits. Just like an eagle must push its young out of the nest so they learn to fly, God will sometimes make your nest uncomfortable until you spread your wings. And when the time of separation ends, when you have walked through your season of silence and surrender, you will see that every tear, every loss, every lonely night was necessary. You will look back and realize that what left you made space for what found you. You will understand that the people who walked away were never meant to witness your elevation because they were not equipped to understand your transformation. So don't fight your season of separation. Don't mourn what's gone, prepare for what's coming. The pain you feel now is the stretching that comes before soaring. The silence you endure is the stillness before the unveiling. The distance between you and others is not proof of failure. It is the distance you need to rise. Every chosen one must walk through this sacred tunnel between obscurity and opportunity. It is dark, it is narrow, and it is lonely. But at the end of it shines the light of destiny. And when you finally rise, when elevation comes, you will see that nothing was lost, only replaced. Every person who left made room for people who will push you higher. Every closed door made way for one that opens into purpose. every heartbreak turned into wisdom, you will stand taller, not because life was easy, but because separation taught you to depend on something higher than support. It taught you to depend on God Himself. So let the separation happen. Let what needs to leave, leave. You are not being punished. You are being positioned. What feels like the breaking of your heart is actually the building of your wings. Before elevation comes separation, and when the rising begins, you will know it was all worth it. There comes a moment when everything begins to make sense. When the years of silence, the nights of loneliness, the days of confusion finally reveal their purpose. The chosen ones, who once walked alone and misunderstood, begin to see that their isolation was never meant to destroy them. It was meant to define them. Every tear that fell in secret, every rejection that cut deep, every moment they questioned their worth was quietly shaping the foundation of something extraordinary. Because for the chosen, isolation is never the end. It is the beginning of impact. The world may not understand their journey, but heaven never wastes their pain. What felt like a burial was actually a planting. What felt like loss was a divine investment, waiting to bloom in its appointed time. When you are chosen, your story doesn't end in silence. It begins there. The stillness that once seemed unbearable becomes the soil of revelation. You start to realize that every lonely season was a classroom where heaven taught you endurance, faith, and humility. It is in solitude that you learn the sound of your own soul, and in silence that you discover the voice of God. While others were busy being seen, you were being shaped. While others were chasing attention, you were being filled with intention. And now, what was hidden in private is preparing to shine in public. Your impact is the fruit of your invisible seasons. The chosen ones are never raised in comfort. They are raised in contradiction. They face battles no one else sees because they are meant to win victories no one else could. The reason they had 0 friends wasn't because they were unworthy of love. It was because their mission required focus. You cannot build a legacy while entertaining distractions. You cannot fulfill a global purpose while craving local approval. God kept you alone, not to starve your heart, but to strengthen your spirit, because He knew there would come a time when the very thing that made you lonely would become the reason others look up to you. Every chosen one must learn that pain can either make you bitter or make you better. And those who rise choose better. They take the loneliness that once broke them and turn it into compassion for others who suffer silently. They take rejection and transform it into wisdom. They take their wilderness and make it a well for others to drink from. This is how isolation turns into impact. When your personal pain becomes someone else's healing, you stop asking, why me? And start declaring, now I understand. When you begin to walk in your purpose, you realize that not everyone was meant to be your friend. Some were meant to be your audience. The same people who ignored you will one day be inspired by you. The same voices that called you crazy will call you courageous. The same hearts that closed their doors will one day open their hands, because impact doesn't seek revenge. It seeks redemption. The chosen rise, not to prove others wrong, but to prove that love never fails, that endurance always wins, that faith always finds a way. There is a divine irony in how heaven works. God allows you to walk through seasons of nothing so you can appreciate everything. He allows you to be unseen so that when you are finally seen, you handle it with humility. He lets you experience rejection so you can become a safe place for those who are rejected. Every struggle becomes a seed of empathy. Every scar becomes a story, and every wound becomes a window through which His glory shines. The chosen ones don't impact the world by being perfect. They impact it by being real, by showing that brokenness can birth beauty, that loneliness can lead to leadership. One of the greatest signs that your season of isolation is ending is when your voice starts to carry weight. People begin to listen not because of your title, but because of your truth. You no longer speak from theory, but from testimony. You have lived what others are still learning. Your presence begins to carry peace. Your words bring healing, and your story becomes a mirror for others to see hope in their own darkness. That's the power of being chosen. Your journey becomes someone else's map. But impact doesn't mean fame. Many confuse visibility with value. The chosen are not called to impress. They are called to influence. You might never stand on a stage, but your life itself becomes a message. The way you forgive, the way you love, the way you keep faith in the face of failure, these things echo louder than any speech. True impact is quiet but powerful. It changes hearts before it changes headlines. It shapes destinies before it gathers followers. And when you finally arrive at that place where your past pain meets your present purpose, gratitude fills your heart. You stop resenting the solitude that once hurt you. You start thanking the seasons that forced you to grow, because now you can see clearly. Every closed door protected your purpose. Every ending made room for a beginning. Every lonely night taught you to depend on something greater than yourself. You realize that isolation wasn't punishment. It was preparation for influence that could not be built any other way. The chosen ones understand that their impact is not measured by how many people know their name, but by how many lives are changed by their obedience. You may never know the full reach of your influence. A single word of encouragement, a single act of kindness, a single decision to stay faithful can ripple through generations. That's the secret of the chosen. They don't just live for today, they live for eternity. So if you are in that place where you feel forgotten, take heart. You are not being left behind. You are being positioned ahead. The silence around you is the sound of heaven working on your behalf. The loneliness you feel is not empty space. It is sacred ground. Because from isolation to impact, every chosen one walks the same road. It is narrow. It is painful. It is slow. But it leads to legacy. One day, you will stand where you once wept and say, "Now I understand." The friends you never had will be replaced by the lives you have touched. The pain that once crushed you will become the power that lifts others. And the silence that once scared you will be remembered as the moment heaven whispered your purpose. You will realize that the chosen ones never truly walk alone. They walk with destiny. And destiny always turns isolation into impact, sorrow into strength, and obscurity into influence. That is the journey of the chosen. Lonely at first, but eternal in its reward.